Let me tell you something, and I want you to hear this real clear. There are a lot of men in the world. Tall men, rich men, funny men, smooth-talking men, but all men are not worth holding on to. See, love ain't about how hard you fall. It's about who's standing there catching you when life gets ugly. And when you find a man who does certain things for you without being begged, without being threatened, without being reminded every 5 minutes, that's not just a man, that's a blessing. Let me talk to you about this first thing, because this one right here separates boys from grown men. A man who protects your peace, not just your body, is not common. Any man can stand in front of you and act tough. Any man can say, I got you. When somebody looks at you wrong, but protecting your peace means he understands that your mind, your emotions, your spirit matter just as much as your safety. And most men don't learn that until they lose a good woman. See, a man who protects your peace watches how he talks to you. He knows words can heal and words can wound. When he's angry, he doesn't go for the lowest blow. He doesn't bring up your past, your insecurities, or the things you trusted him with just to win an argument. Because to him, winning an argument at the cost of your peace is still a loss. He understands that love isn't about domination, it's about care. A man like this pays attention. He notices when your energy shifts. He notices when you're smiling, but something ain't right behind it. He doesn't ignore your silence and call it no drama. He checks in. He asks what's wrong, and he actually listens to the answer instead of brushing it off or telling you you're overreacting. Protecting your peace means he validates your feelings even when he doesn't fully understand them. This kind of man doesn't bring chaos into your life. He doesn't keep you guessing. He doesn't create emotional roller coasters and call it passion. You don't have to wonder where you stand with him or who you are to him. There's clarity, there's reassurance, there's stability. And let me tell you something, peace is addictive once you've had it. When you've been with someone who disturbs your peace, you don't miss the noise once it's gone. A man who protects your peace also knows when to remove himself from situations that could hurt you. He doesn't entertain other women in a way that disrespects you. He doesn't flirt for fun and then tell you it meant nothing. He understands that peace is fragile and the trust is easy to break. So he moves with intention, not recklessness. And here's the part people don't talk about enough. This man protects your peace even from himself. He works on his temper. He works on his ego. He checks his pride. If he knows he's wrong, he doesn't double down just to feel like the man. He apologizes. He adjusts because your peace matters more to him than being right. When life gets hard, and it will, he becomes a safe place, not another problem. You don't dread talking to him. You don't rehearse conversations in your head because you're scared of his reaction. You can be honest. You can be emotional. You can be human. And he doesn't make you feel weak for that. He makes you feel supported. A man who protects your peace understands that the world is already heavy. You're fighting battles at work, with family, with life itself. He doesn't add weight to your shoulders. He helps you carry it. And when you finally lay your head down at night, your mind is calm because you know the man beside you isn't against you. That kind of man is rare. And if you ever find one who values your peace like that, who guards it, respects it, and nurtures it, you need to understand something very clearly. That's not just love, that's security. That's maturity. And that's something you don't casually walk away from. Let me break this one down, because consistency is the thing most people say they want, but very few actually recognize when they have it. A man who is consistent is not loud about it. He doesn't make big speeches every time he does what he's supposed to do. He just shows up again and again the same way with the same energy. And that's exactly why consistency is so powerful. It's quiet proof. A consistent man doesn't love you in bursts. He doesn't come on strong, disappear, then come back with apologies and explanations. You don't have to wonder why his tone changed or why the effort dropped. He doesn't leave you feeling secure one week and confused the next. His behavior matches his words, and his words match his actions. That alignment is rare, and that alignment builds trust without you even trying. Consistency means you don't have to chase him. You don't have to remind him who you are or why you matter. He calls when he says he will. He texts back without making you feel like you're asking for too much. He doesn't act like basic respect is a favor. He understands that reliability is attractive, and showing up is the bare minimum for someone you claim to care about. A man who is consistent doesn't make you fall in love with potential. He doesn't sell you dreams and then ask you to be patient while he figures himself out at your expense. He is who he says he is today, not who he promises to become someday. And that's important because love doesn't live in the future. Love lives in what a man does right now on ordinary days when nobody is watching. Consistency also shows up during conflict. When things get uncomfortable, he doesn't change into a different person. He doesn't shut down, disappear, or suddenly become too busy to communicate. He stays present. He addresses issues instead of avoiding them. You don't have to fear that one argument will cost you the relationship, because he doesn't treat love like something disposable. This kind of man understands that trust isn't built through grand gestures. It's built through repetition, through showing you that today he's the same man he was yesterday, and tomorrow he'll still be that man. Over time, that steadiness creates emotional safety. You stop bracing for disappointment. You stop preparing for abandonment. You relax into the relationship because you know where you stand. A consistent man also respects your time and your emotions. He doesn't make you wait around wondering if he's coming through. He doesn't cancel plans last minute without care. If something changes, he communicates, because he understands that inconsistency creates anxiety, and anxiety is the enemy of intimacy. When you're with a consistent man, your nervous system calms down. You're not overthinking every interaction. You're not decoding mixed signals. You're not asking your friends to analyze texts. His actions speak clearly, and clarity is comforting. Clarity lets love grow without fear. And here's the truth: a lot of people don't want to accept. Consistency may not always feel exciting, but it feels safe, and safe is where love lasts, fireworks fade, drama gets exhausting. But a man who shows up, stays solid, and doesn't waver is the man who builds something real with you, brick by brick, day by day. Let me talk to you about a man who listens to understand, because that right there tells you everything you need to know about his heart. Most people don't actually listen. They wait for their turn to talk. They listen just long enough to defend themselves or prove a point. But a man who listens to understand is operating from a completely different place. He's not trying to win. He's trying to connect. When you speak, he's present. He's not scrolling on his phone, half hearing you, nodding without absorbing a word. He looks at you. He hears the emotion behind what you're saying, not just the words. He understands that sometimes you're not looking for solutions, you're looking for safety, and instead of cutting you off with advice or dismissing your feelings, he lets you finish. That alone is powerful. This kind of man asks questions, not to interrogate you, but to truly understand your perspective. He wants to know why something hurt you. He wants to know what made you feel that way. He doesn't minimize your emotions or label you as too sensitive. He respects the fact that your feelings are real because they are yours. That respect builds a level of intimacy that can't be forced. When disagreements happen, and they will, he doesn't turn every conversation into a competition. He doesn't raise his voice just to overpower yours. He doesn't twist your words or shift the focus to avoid accountability. He listens even when it's uncomfortable, even when the truth stings a little, because to him, understanding you is more important than protecting his ego. A man who listens to understand also remembers what you tell him, not just the big things, but the small details. What stresses you out? What makes you feel appreciated? What triggers old wounds? And he uses that knowledge to love you better, not to control you or hurt you. He adjusts his behavior because he cares about your experience, not because you forced him to. This type of listening creates emotional safety. You don't feel like you have to bottle things up. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells. You can express yourself without fear of being mocked, dismissed, or misunderstood. And when a woman feels safe to speak freely, she opens her heart naturally. No guards, no walls. A man who truly listens understands that communication isn't about fixing everything immediately. Sometimes it's about sitting in the discomfort together. Sometimes it's about saying, I hear you, and meaning it. That kind of presence is rare in a world full of noise and distraction. And when you experience it, you realize how much you've been settling before. He also listens when you're happy, not just when you're upset. He celebrates your wins. He pays attention to what excites you, what lights you up. He encourages your growth instead of feeling threatened by it, because he doesn't see your voice as something to manage. He sees it as something to value. When a man listens to understand, problems don't pile up and explode later. They get addressed early, calmly, respectfully. Misunderstandings don't turn into resentment because there's space for clarity, and clarity strengthens connection. Over time, that kind of communication becomes the foundation of trust. A man like this makes you feel seen, and being seen is one of the deepest human needs. When someone truly hears you, you don't feel alone anymore. You feel chosen, you feel understood, and that feeling changes everything about how love grows between two people. Let me explain this one clearly, because when a man naturally includes you in his future, there's nothing confusing about it. You don't have to guess. You don't have to decode his words. You don't have to push conversations that feel uncomfortable. It just happens. He talks about tomorrow, next month, next year, and somehow you're already there. Not forced in, not added later. You're already part of the picture. A man who sees you in his future doesn't keep you in a holding pattern. He doesn't say things like, let's just see where this goes, while enjoying all the benefits of your presence. He knows what he's building toward, and he knows whether or not you fit into that vision. And if you do, his actions reflect that. He makes decisions with you in mind, even when you're not in the room. This man doesn't treat commitment like a trap. He doesn't avoid serious conversations or change the subject when the future comes up. He doesn't get uncomfortable when you talk about life goals, values, or long-term plans. Instead, he leans in, he listens, he shares his own thoughts, because a man who's serious about you isn't afraid of direction. He's afraid of wasting time. When a man includes you in his future, he also introduces you into his life properly. You're not hidden. You're not a secret. The people who matter to him know about you. You're not just someone he spends time with in private. You exist in his real world. And that's important, because a man who plans to keep you around doesn't keep you in the shadows. He also considers how his choices will affect you. Before he makes big moves, he thinks about how it impacts the relationship. That doesn't mean he loses his independence or identity. It means he values the partnership. He understands that love isn't just about what feels good right now. It's about building something sustainable together. This kind of man doesn't make you feel like you're asking for too much by wanting clarity. He doesn't rush you, but he also doesn't stall. There's progress, maybe slow, maybe steady, but always forward. You feel movement, not stagnation. You feel like you're growing together instead of waiting alone. A man who includes you in his future doesn't make you compete with uncertainty. You're not battling his past, his fear, or his indecision. He's already decided that you matter, and once a man decides that, his behavior changes. He becomes more intentional, more thoughtful, more responsible with your heart. This man also speaks about the future with confidence, not fantasy. He's not painting fairy tales to keep you interested. He's being realistic, honest, grounded. He understands that a real future includes challenges, growth, and compromise, and he's willing to do that work with you, not avoid it. Being with a man like this feels grounding. You're not floating in what if, you're standing in what is. You're not holding on to hope alone, you're sharing vision, and when two people are moving toward the same direction, the relationship stops feeling like guesswork and starts feeling like purpose. Let me tell you about a man who corrects himself without being forced, because this right here is one of the clearest signs of emotional maturity you will ever see. Most people think strength is about being right all the time. A lot of men grow up believing that admitting fault makes them weak. But a man who can look at himself and say, I was wrong, without you having to beg, cry, threaten to leave, or explain it 10 different ways, that man has done some real inner work. When this kind of man messes up, he doesn't get defensive. He doesn't flip the situation around and somehow make it your fault. He doesn't say things like, that's just how I am, or you're too sensitive, or you're overthinking. Instead, he pauses, he reflects, he takes responsibility. And that pause right there is powerful because it means he's choosing growth over ego. A man who corrects himself listens to feedback without feeling attacked. He understands that being called out doesn't mean being disrespected. It means someone cares enough to want better from him. He doesn't see your concerns as nagging or complaining. He sees them as insight into how his actions affect you. And once he understands that impact, he adjusts not temporarily, not just to calm you down, but genuinely. This man doesn't need ultimatums to change. You don't have to threaten to walk away for him to act right. He doesn't wait until you're emotionally exhausted before he decides to step up. When he realizes something he did hurt you, he corrects it because he doesn't want to be the source of your pain. That's love with accountability attached. Pay attention to how a man handles his mistakes. Some men apologize just to end the conversation. They say sorry, but the behavior never changes. A man who corrects himself understands that an apology without change is manipulation. So when he says sorry, it comes with action, different choices, better behavior, real effort. And over time, you see that the same issue doesn't keep repeating itself. This kind of man is self-aware. He checks his tone. He checks his reactions. He checks his habits. If he notices something about himself that's damaging the relationship, he works on it, not because you forced him to, but because he values what he has with you. He understands that love requires evolution. You don't stay the same and expect better results. A man who corrects himself also knows how to regulate his emotions. When he's angry, he doesn't lash out just to release frustration. He doesn't say things he can't take back and then expect forgiveness to erase the damage. He learns to respond instead of react, and that self-control creates safety. You're not afraid of his moods. You're not bracing yourself for emotional whiplash. This man doesn't see growth as humiliation. He sees it as progress. He understands that being a better partner means unlearning some things and relearning others. Maybe he wasn't taught how to communicate properly. Maybe he grew up around unhealthy relationship patterns.